Well, let's go ahead and get started. Guys, I appreciate everybody, ladies and gentlemen, joining our conference. This is backed by Empower Black Men. If you guys are not familiar with Empower Black Men, it's basically working on a nonprofit to be able to show a different, side of Black men that society really does not show. As you know, may have seen in the media. The media likes to show one side of what black men look like, and that's not the case. Have some great, excellent black men on this conference. Again, powered by Empower Black Men, Excelling Black Men. Excited to be able to have Pharoah on the line, as well as Brian, Griffin, as well as Hasan. Great guys and doing great things in this world, which is always exciting, especially during the times that we're in, and trying to be that example that we absolutely need. So I'm going to basically put everybody on mute, unless somebody's unless one of the co-hosts is talking. There's a few more people coming in here, so if you guys can just stay on mute for us as we introduce our co-guests, and as well as listen to their incredible stories. I have a list of questions here that we're going to go through, so I hope you guys are all inspired by what we have to say. This is me being the host, and really just being the mediator, listening to all these great guys' stories. So let's go ahead and put everybody on mute here. All right, and then for my co-hosts and guests, you guys can go ahead and unmute yourself when I bring up your name. Other than that, to just stay muted. But let's go ahead and get started here. Again, I want to thank everybody for joining the Excelling Black Men Conference. We typically try to have it at least once a month. So feel free to check back on our Instagram page at Empower Black Men to see if we have other conferences going on, as well as just to show support with other great guys that's doing great things around the world. So my co-host Hasan, we definitely want to open up the conversation with you. Question for you, man, is you're in real estate. Why did you get into real estate? What was your experience of getting into real estate? And what is your experience of being a African-American male in real estate?
My intention in getting into real estate was to promote economic wealth and legacy in the Black community, and also increase home ownership in the Black community. As a Black male in the industry, I have been successful. It wasn't always easy, of course, but I go in the neighborhoods, people look at me funny. I go in the bank to cash a large check. They say, what's this NRT bank? Don't want to give me my money. So I've definitely experienced, I guess, the systemic racism or the judging. I've been in the property, and somebody come in behind me like, what's going on? Why are you all in here? So you definitely have to have an extra set of eyes when you're in this industry. And you got to actually go the extra mile as well to promote excellence, because you got to also outpace the stigmas.
Awesome. Definitely love it. Appreciate that. Pharoah, man, you're in fashion. That's big time. Especially being not just African American person in fashion, but as well as a male in fashion, which is
right
in my mind is a little rare. Talk to us about it, man. You're in fashion, dealing with NBA players, NFL players, WNBA players. How'd you get started, and what made you want to get started in fashion?
For myself, it was more so like I wanted to break down barriers. We all have, we're in 2020 now. We've all heard that slogan or that motto that say, hey, we want to create table instead of, being a chair being brought to the table. We want to create our own tables. And so for me, I come from an entrepreneur background where both my parents were entrepreneurs. Both my parents owned dry cleaners. And so with both my parents owning dry cleaners, like I loved fashion always. I love sports. I love fashion, but I never wanted to take over the family business. So one of the things that you mentioned earlier was generational wealth. And for me, it's like, I'm one of the few I know probably in America that I come from, generational wealth where my family done very well. But the difference for me was I wasn't handed anything. I wasn't handed a deed. I wasn't handed a loan. I wasn't handed anything as far as business. I was basically just told, do you want the business or not? And I chose not. And with me choosing not was I had to blaze a new trail. How I got into fashion was I have a sports background for myself. I played collegiate basketball and had an opportunity to play overseas in Italy and just lost my love for the game, turned down a contract. One of my best friends is 7 feet tall, and I noticed that Nike had a hard time sending him clothes that fit. And so because he plays basketball, and I found that there was a pain point that, a lot of us in different industries, whether we're playing sports, whether we're in banking, whether we're in, agriculture, construction, there's a need for clothing, and the clothing just doesn't fit. I'm 6'4", and we got guys out here, that are, bank tellers or they're assistant branch managers and they're 6'6". And how can I help these gentlemen to, fit or have this desired fit? But then when you talk about as a Black man, you're talking about image is everything. And so I wanted to help shape the narrative as far as our athletes and making sure that they're represented by the media correctly, making sure that they represented, as they're, give you an example, we have Brian Griffin on, when Brian comes and portrays one of his clients, I want to make sure that one of Brian's clients looks their absolute best, that, hey, if there's a negative story that goes around, we can at least go back and say, you know what, we know about his character. This is not this type of guy. He speaks well, he talks well, he looks well, and he does well. And so that's one of the things that I was working on for myself and along with my businesses.
Wow, that's amazing. A side funny joke here. I did not know you were 6'4". Your pictures doesn't show you as 6'4", so that's
I
dope.
try to stretch it as much as I can, man. You should see when me and Brian together. I try to stretch it.
That's funny. Yeah, man. No, definitely, man. I'm 6'6.5", almost 6'7", basically. And yeah, man, it was always hard to find clothes and stuff like that. That's awesome, man. Also, great to know that you know Brian as well. That's dope. Talking about Brian, what's up, brother? Hope all is well. Let's talk. Let's go ahead and start with you, man. I'm a sports agent too.
Right.
Represent both male and female basketball players, baseball players, as well as college coaches. Also about to get into the golf game. But man, you're in the industry that I don't really want to touch. The NFL. That's a definitely interesting industry, man. Why the NFL? Why sports agent? Talk about it, man.
Right. Honestly, I got into this because of just representation. The majority of the NFL looks like you and I, and the agent community doesn't really look like us. We need more representation that, has that background, that understands where your kids are coming from, that also has an education that can, put them on game, teach them about, financial literacy and, promote generational wealth, things like that. Because, ultimately that's the goal, is to, put as many of our people on, so then they can reach back. So really, I'm a former athlete as well. I guess it's cool to see that we have former athletes that are, still giving back in different ways. I don't know, agents have always kind of been around my life. I have 2 cousins that's played professional ball, and I'm from Florida, and a lot of my friends also played in the NFL. So, I've just been around agents, heard what they talk about, and I just really just kind of became a passion of like just seeing that we need more people that just get it, that can help these guys, that's not going to, get them into a situation they can't get out of. The game, Jay. As an agent, it's a lot of other agents that aren't really pitching the right things to, people that look like us. And at the end of the day, they, career ends and they have nothing to show for. So I'm in this business to make sure that that's not happening.
No, definitely. That's you hit on the nose. One of the reasons why I started my own firm, as well as being a former financial advisor, tacking on a wealth management firm to my sports agency, is making sure that everything is being well taught out and educated. As you know, a lot of these athletes do get mistreated, unfortunately, and Yeah, so we'll stick with you, Brian, since we just talked. We just had you talking. Next question is: could you imagine doing anything else? If so, what would it be? And if not, why not?
Honestly, I'm an entrepreneur. My business partner's on here as well. I mean, I would be wrong to be an agent and not be doing other things at the same time as telling my athletes that they should be out doing other things as well. So I wouldn't personally have like my full time be anything other than agent. Obviously, that's the goal. I'm still working on making the agency like a full time thing. And I mean, it just kind of goes back to my story of like, wow, I'm into this business. There's nothing else. I don't think I can make a bigger impact on our community other than through athletes, because that's what, at least I did. A lot of people from Florida, they looked up to athletes. Those are our role models. If you grew up in that neighborhood where you didn't have many positive influences. So, I wouldn't do anything else, because I see this as, a platform for me to touch as many lives as possible through my athletes. But in the same vein, obviously, I do promote doing real estate. I invest in real estate on the side. I invest in stocks, but I wouldn't do those full time. Never.
That's awesome. Awesome. Pharoah, man, getting back to you. You mentioned that you had come from both parents being, entrepreneurs and having their own stuff. With you being in fashion, could you see yourself doing anything else? If so, what would it be? If not, why not?
For myself, what's funny is I come from a corporate American background where I tried to live that quote unquote white American lie. And I just, I'm not going to sugarcoat it right now. I thought that I wanted security. I thought I wanted, everything that was, right there, easily attainable for me. There's nothing more dissatisfying to waking up to an everyday lie, meaning that I get up every day and I go to a 9 to 5 and I hate it. I'm making somebody else's business grow. Quick fun fact was, in 7 days, I used to work for Pepsi. I was a regional manager for sales. I managed 40 guys. In 7 days, I made Pepsi $300,000. Out of that, $0 came to my pocket. I didn't get a commission check or anything. So for me, it was like knowing that there was something else out there greater for me. And like Brian said, I'm an entrepreneur at heart. I know how to run a business. And for me, finding fashion, and it's a passion. I take joy in representing someone's client, working with an agency, working with the music industry, and making sure that I shape someone's dream, shape someone's image into a positive reflection. And then not to mention helping them to obtain, other streams of income just from looking good. There's no more joy and satisfaction for me. So honestly, I'm doing this full time. I moved to New York with $2,500 to my name. And with me moving to New York, I just took it and ran with it. And I don't see myself doing anything else. I won't let myself fail.
No, that's amazing. Trust me, I've been there my own self. I used to work for a wealth management firm before I branched out and started my own agency, and I'll never forget, helping them build their firm in the fourth quarter. What was that? 2014, I believe. I was basically the liaison of bringing in $1.5 million in about a month and a half time frame, and my bonus check was the smallest thing I've ever seen in my life. So I definitely get as far as working that corporate ladder and corporate sector and the lack thereof. Hasan, same question, man. I mean, you talked about creating Black wealth. You talked about your desire to be in real estate and helping build that Black community. Could you imagine yourself doing something else? And if not, why not? And if so, what would it be?
I couldn't imagine myself doing anything else outside of having, other streams of income. But I feel that real estate is truly my calling. So essentially, it's in my heart, it's in my blood that nothing else is going to do it for me outside of real estate.
Awesome. No, I love that. I love that. Calling is everything. And I'll stick with you since I got you right now. The next question for all of you guys, but starting with Hasan, who inspires you to do what you do? Why are you doing what you do? Which is, the biggest thing that I think a lot of us don't realize in life is just that key word, why. So who inspires you to do what you do?
Both my father and grandfather were entrepreneurs. My grandfather had real estate. My father had real estate. And when the recession hit in around 2008, we didn't necessarily lose everything, but a lot of those assets, were let go to keep afloat. So I grew up, with a lot of those luxuries from having those assets. But my brothers were younger, so ever since then, I was about 18. I've been striving to make sure that they always had what I had. So I've been working since I was 18 to provide that better life for my brothers. And then that kind of matured into just outside of my family, but do something like that for everyone's family to where they can all reach back and support their own family. But that's my passion and
Nice.
my inspiration.
No, I love that. I love that. That's awesome. It's always good to have great men role models in your life to be able to do that. Brian, switching over to you, Brian. Same thing. Who inspires you to do what you do? Motivates you to do what you do. That big question, why?
Yeah. Honestly, as cheesy as it is, I like to say the younger version of me. There's other kids in my neighborhood that need a positive influence that don't necessarily play football or some sport. I need kids to understand that, there's other ways to make it out and, make something of yourself outside of athletics, outside of entertainment, whatever the case may be.
Awesome. Love that. Love that. Pharoah, same question, man. We again, it's finding that why. Who inspires you to do what you do?
I'd be killed if I didn't say, if I said just my mother, my father would say something. But if I said just my father, my mom would say something. So I'm going to say both of them. I got to say them individually because for my father, it's he doesn't have the business acumen. So meaning you put $10 in his hand or $100 in his hand, he knows how to make it into 10 grand or 100 grand. He's what you call a hustler. But he also at the same time, he knows what we call code switching. So he was the person who taught me how to code switch, how to walk that fine line in the hood, but also walk that fine line in suburb America. So I definitely, always listen to him, take as much advice from him as possible, and navigate the lanes within the different industries that I'm trying to tackle. But then for my mother, it's the same thing. I watch my mom, and most Black women right now are not receiving the respect that they, genuinely deserve. And for my mom, I watched her. I went to meetings and went to different things with her, city council meetings or, down at City Hall trying to obtain different permits. And I've watched the struggles that she's had to endure, not just because she's Black, but also because she's a woman. So for me, it's like I want to tackle that barrier and want to shift those things for her, because I see how hard she had to strive and fight just for me to have something. And I'm thankful for both parents for providing me with, a childhood that was unbelievable, but also at the same time, like Brian said, for all of us that's on here, what we're trying to do is just build for the youth that's coming behind us, letting them know that there is something more, obtaining and prosperous than just playing sports. You can do anything. You can go into real estate. You can be an agent. You can, go into construction. You can be in banking. You can be in fashion. There's multiple ways to skin a cat in this game, and there's multiple ways to set up streams of income. And I'm just honestly, I have to say this because it's been on my mind. I'm just thankful that we're all here as Black men, just continuously growing and learning from each other, because without, certain individuals, on this chat, I probably wouldn't be where I am, and vice versa for others. So just thank you guys, all of you, just listening to your story.
Nah, man, that's powerful. That's one of the reasons why, I even created the whole EBM Instagram page, and just really want to be able to show, not just the Black community, but the world that, Black men don't necessarily just have to play sports to be successful. We are smart. We are intelligent. We don't look like, what the media portrays. We're here to build something special individually, as well as for the Black community as well. Fair, I'll stick with you. We're about to, hopefully we don't get too deep with these questions. 2020 has been interesting across the board. From police shootings to COVID-19. Seeing everything that you've seen on the news, regardless of just the news itself, but maybe your past experiences mentally, how has that affected you? And what advice can you give others, regardless of their male or female, in regards to Black community to keep on pushing forward and staying positive throughout these times?
I went to a HBCU, so I went to Tuskegee University, and for me, I've been to, I'm not sure who's all seen the TV show All American, but I've lived that life. I've lived on the other side, and then, I went to the other side. So for me, it's, understanding our roots, and Tuskegee helped me to understand Black history, understanding where we came from and where we're trying to go. And I would be almost a failure if I didn't continue the fight that my grandparents and my great grandparents fought for me. I continue to fight every single day with everyone. And, unfortunately, give you an example, we just had the latest shooting in Milwaukee. Tragedy. Now we have a Black man that's paralyzed. And so for myself, it's, continuing to fight these barriers that, we're placed in, because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter if you're an NBA president of the Toronto Raptors or you're just, an individual that works a $8 per hour job. We're still seen the same way across the world. And it doesn't matter how much money you make. So that's why the fight has to continue, because I'll just be completely honest when I say this and transparent. Who in the hell wants to live in the slums or continue to be thought of as 3/5 of a human? And we're all honestly human. And so for me, I'm going to continue to fight, and I'm pretty sure a lot of us are.
What sticking with you, man, what advice, with 2020, everything going on, what advice can you give people within the Black community, especially all the Black men that are on here and Black women that are on here, to stay positive?
To be honest, 2020, just keeping faith, knowing that there are different raptures, there are different testaments, there are different obstacles that are always going to be placed in front of us. One of the things is I'm always going to get knocked down. There's going to be a period where I'm always knocked off a horse, knocked off a mountain. I would rather be knocked off a mountain and knowing how to get back up to the top of that mountain than never being knocked off and not knowing how to get back up there. So I keep my faith in God and knowing that God has something greater planned for all of us. And my faith is going to always continue to stay strong. I just know it's something better for all of us. So the advice that I can give someone is, of course, number one, I'm an advocate for this: read your Bible, understand your Bible. But also number two is starting to learn the different industries that are out here. Real estate is a big market, understanding how there's a shift in the real estate game right now that we're going through. This is one of the things, understanding stocks. We have Apple with 4-to-1 splits, we have Tesla, things of that nature. Understanding, Hasan mentioned it earlier, but he wants to keep his job where he's doing real estate, but he's always going to have multiple streams of income on the side. So understanding that, hey, you know what, there's other ways to, create generational wealth. And I'm just a student of the game, reading books. So that's the advice that I would give to someone, to let them know that, hey, we must continue to fight and know that there's going to be better times at the end of the road.
Man, that's great stuff. Amazing stuff. Switching over to Hasan, kind of going back to the same questions. We talked about police shootings, COVID-19, and obviously the year 2020. As a Black male, seeing that, how has that affected you? And what advice can you share that maybe you're doing as far as maybe some getting more mentors or meditating to help our Black community to push forward throughout the year?
Mentally, it just makes you realize that we kind of live through these stigmas, and our people have prevailed through worse times. but it just made me realize how the norm this was. I was at Autobell getting the church van clean, and a white Caucasian lady came up to me and was like, "I just want to hug you." And I had no idea what she was talking about, but she was talking about the George Floyd incident. And that made me aware of, how that was it was the norm to me, but it also challenged me to, stand up and say that that's not acceptable. We shouldn't be, scared to turn down this road because it says private owner, or go in this neighborhood because it's white. So it made me realize that we kind of all have that in us subconsciously, where we always have to take that second look behind ourselves or have that extra precaution mentally. So it definitely can be stressful, but we don't even realize it. So I've challenged myself to not make that the norm, and hope I can inspire others. So in advice, I would definitely piggyback off Pharoah and say, keep your faith. And then also during this time, it's a great opportunity to find yourself. My business, tripled since COVID. I didn't have anything else to do. Real estate took all my attention. So I really challenge people to take this time of quarantining and not being able to go out and, waste your time to really figure out what's your true calling, what's your worth, and, what do you want to make happen, and how can you make the world better?
Well, kudos for the business tripling, man. That's always a positive and great thing to know. And I definitely love the feedback that you gave. Brian, same question, brother. 2020 police shootings, COVID-19, black male such as yourself. How are you coping mentally? How has that played in your life? And then what advice can you give others in regards to pushing through 2020?
Right. I'll say first things first. I will always advocate for therapy. That's one thing in our community that we don't really talk a whole lot about. It's kind of like damn, bro, like you want to go see somebody for like what's going on, but really, I mean, that's a very freeing thing to, help get your mental space together. Because, I mean, it's traumatizing really to see these things happen. I mean, I'm pretty sure if we're to pass the mic around, a lot of us have had a run-in or two in our past. And, each one of these instances kind of bring that back up. So really, I lean on therapy. Obviously, I lean on my faith. But, just getting that stuff out of you. And really just kind of to what both Hasan and Pharoah said, I mean, just stay in the game. I mean, we black don't crack, we tough. We got a whole history to prove it. So stay in the game. I mean, obviously 2020 has been tough for all of us, but I mean, both me and my business partner, we've started new businesses in, 2020 to compensate because we don't know what's going on with, football. At this point, I doubt we have a full football season. For even, the ACC and SEC that are going to attempt to play. I mean, our money is hinged on, getting new athletes and them getting into the league. So, I mean, learn new skills, just know that you ain't alone, seek therapy, YouTube University, pick up new skills, and that's it.
Love it. And I'll stick with you, Brian. We're all, we're all basically entrepreneurs. We all have our own companies, own businesses, work for ourselves, self-employed. For the ones that may be on here that are not self-employed, what are some tools that you use to have the desire to start your own business? And regardless of, if they want to start their own business or not, just because, starting your own business is not for everybody. What are some things that you can advise them to be better at their current job or just being better as an individual?
Right. So I don't think everybody has a typical 9-to-5, but I do have a 9-to-5 outside of my agency and, the other things that we're doing. So really LinkedIn has this thing that allows you to acquire new skills. What else? Google has a tool as well to help you acquire new skills. But really, I utilize YouTube for anything that I want to do. Like, for example, me and a couple of my college friends are starting a security company. I learned how to do that completely on YouTube. I invest in real estate. I learned that completely on YouTube. Me and my business partner started selling shoes. We learned how to use bots and all this other stuff on YouTube. So As far as acquiring new skills, I always go to YouTube first. I'll go on Instagram, see other people that's in the industry that's actually doing it, not somebody that's just looking to sell a course, and just follow what they're doing. Reach out to them, get them in DMs, volunteer to work for them. Because I guarantee if I tell someone, like, look, I want to get into real estate, I don't really know where to start, but I mean, if you just got 5 hours a week, I'll go find deals for you. I'll go door knock if I have to. I guarantee he's not going to tell me no.
My man. Hasan, switching over to you. Basically saying questions. What are some tools that you can advise others to kind of get into real estate, what to look for, the best way to invest? Maybe they don't have a lot of money to invest. What are some options that they have with getting into real estate?
I say the main thing with getting into real estate is to just own your own home simply. That one asset alone will give you tax benefits, help you build equity, and again, help you build that generational wealth. So at minimum, everybody should at least be striving to own their own home. I will also say, well, no matter what you want to do, you're going to need good credit. I went through a stage in college where I thought it was, all about having cash and not worrying about credit, but I definitely advise all my younger people or anyone on here who doesn't value credit to definitely take care of your credit, because that's going to save you money in any facet, whether that's business or personal. And what other tools? And then honestly, I'm really heavy on utilizing mentors or people who I see doing things or people who I hear doing things. For example, I drove Uber for a year or so when I first started real estate to help give myself a cushion. And a lot of times I was driving CEOs and I'm talking to them like, I'm their chairman, but I was still bouncing and feeding off of them and picking up on cues and things that they do. So just be a sponge is how I would end that question.
Awesome. Pharoah, same thing, man. You're an entrepreneur yourself. What are some tools that you may have used outside, of college and your parents to get to where you are? Maybe somebody on here is looking to start a business, don't know how. I think one of the things that Hasan hit on the nose is mentorship, but I could be overstepping my bounds here, but within the Black community, there's not a lot of mentors like that. So when you're talking about trying to find mentors or search videos or books, what are some tools that you use, and what are some advice that you can provide?
I'm actually about to piggyback off of Hasan and Brian. That's what happens when you go last and you got the two brothers, they answer the question real good. Thank y'all. So, no, real talk. I will say that, the two things that they both brought up, Brian brought up YouTube University. And for me, getting into the fashion game, YouTube, and a lot of people don't understand this, like, I didn't have a fashion background. I didn't know how to measure. I learned all of this from YouTube. When we talk about, pattern making, everything, I learned all of this from YouTube. But then you talk about things that Hasan brought up, which was, the key word he mentioned was mentorship. For me, I wanted to be successful in different ways. So what I did was I started to look inside my circles, and then I started to look, to go a step beyond that circle. And I started to simply just, tell someone that, I was inspired by the work that they did and would love to learn more. And if they could take me under their wing, I'm willing to do whatever I can to learn from them. So, I took those things from them and was a mentee, to a lot of people. And so I value mentorship. And for myself, I mentor others. But the things that I want to mention is more so intangibles. So the things that I really feel like that can help you to be, successful, whether you have a 9-to-5, whether you're an entrepreneur, is, the intangible of learning organization. I don't know one successful business owner or person that's, steadily moving up the ranks within their 9-to-5 and they're not organized. You have to have some type of organization about yourself in order to succeed. And another thing that I'll mention is understanding responsibility. We have a responsibility not only to ourselves, but to our family and our friends that are around us. You never know whom, may need assistance, whom may, and this assistance can be in financial, it can be in a mental state of mind. It could also mean, you know, just simply a hug. You never know what can go on. And earlier, Brian attributed to it also. Like I said, I love to go behind these guys because I started feeding all the answers. But Brian mentioned mental health. To me, it's mental health is everything. And for myself, I don't mind sharing this. I literally had to go and seek a counselor for myself because I made 6 figures without e-commerce. And I literally hustled my behind off all across the country. And, you know, I'm meeting with players. I'm obtaining clients like Steph Curry. The Currys actually, I'm working with, you know, 2019 and 2020 draft picks in the NFL. And the thing about it is, who can I share all of this information with? You know, it's hard. You know, you don't want to seem like the person that is bragging to your friends. So I have different sets of friends, but I do have a successful set of my friends that understand. But then I have a not so successful group that I grew up with that may not understand, and it's okay. So for myself, I went to seek counseling, and that's why I say mental health is everything, because I was entering into new doors in my life that, you know, I didn't know how to handle, and I wanted to talk to somebody about that. And, you know, you can only talk to your parents, you can talk to friends for only so long. You actually need to talk to a professional. So I advocate 3 things. You know, I advocate organization, the understanding and responsibility, and then mental health, just the mental health awareness piece.
Wow, amazing. I'm definitely taking a lot of mental notes, honestly. I love the mental health piece. I think within the Black community, we really don't really talk about that. We don't really want to express that. And a lot of times we kind of keep all the pressure on our minds. And you know, even picking back with Brian, I agree. Sometimes it's great to seek out a therapist or somebody that's similar to a therapist if you can't, you know, maybe afford a therapist, because therapists are not cheap. Depending on where you are, I'm out of California, and everything in California is expensive. You know, even air is expensive out here in California. So
I'm in New York.
Yeah, exactly. So, you know, we basically just pay for the looks of the state and the air itself. But I definitely love that. Sticking with you, since you went last on that question, and for anybody that's in this chat, we appreciate you guys being on here again. There should be a text box if you want to drop some questions in that text box. We'll get to that after these few questions here. Kind of freestyle right now. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about Circle. You mentioned Circle.
Yep.
We as a Black community don't really comprehend Circle, that terminology, and the ones that do comprehend it, especially Black males, we tend to be very cautious about that word circle, because if you grew up with somebody since you were 5 years old and you're trying to go to the left and be successful, and they're still trying to do the same things since 5 years old, and you guys are in your 30s, sometimes we have to kind of position ourselves to maybe distance ourselves from them so we can achieve our goal. So talk about Circle. What does that mean to you? What advice can you give others to kind of think about their circle as well? And what experiences can you share that maybe you've went through that kind of had you shifting a little bit as far as your circle?
For me, when I speak of circle, I speak of 2 things. I speak of balance, and I speak of the word value. So for myself is understanding balance. Like you said, we got friends that we grew up with since childhood. You know, one of my best friends, you know, I grew up in a predominantly white neighborhood. As a matter of fact, I'll even go a step to give you guys a quick story. I grew up in a neighborhood that was the wealthiest county and city in the state of Michigan, because I'm originally from Detroit. And for me, it wasn't a lot of people of color in our neighborhood. So I was happy just to see, you know, I'm in the 5th grade. We got another person that's, you know, new to the school, and he's Black. I'm happy. I'm just happy to see somebody else that's like me. And this guy's been my best friend since 5th grade, literally. We've had the highs and lows, but understanding balance and understanding that he's finding his way now, finally. And, you know, when you say balance, you try to help somebody. You kind of, there's only so much holding of the hand because you need to climb up the ladder yourself with two hands. You can't climb up the ladder with one hand and pull somebody at the same time. Sometimes that other person has to understand how to climb the ladder themselves. And so for myself was teaching him that thing, teaching the word and the value of friendship. But also when I speak of the word value, I speak of, you know, these new circles that you're trying to enter. So all of us are trying to obtain, you know, generational wealth, but we're also trying to enter into new areas where we've never been before. New circles, new, that's why you network. That's why you go to client meetings. That's why you have these coffee sessions, these dinner sessions. So for myself is, you know, I've been very privileged to be in a room with a lot of influential people. So what I do is I try to provide value. And how I try to provide value is I understand that there are others that just need one chance or they need a shot. And I could possibly be working with Brian, and I understand that Brian, one of his clients, so I'm sorry, both Brian and Carlos, his business partner, on both of them, you know, they may need someone or something for one of their clients. Well, maybe I have that resource, and maybe this resource just needs one chance. So what I do is I like to be an advocate for, you know, making sure that I introduce these two parties to each other, because there's nothing like someone helping you up out of, you know, the field and making sure that you can smell a different set of air. And, you know, Brian's out there in Denver, so that air is a little bit different. So so but for real though, it's, you know, for me, like I would honestly say circles and value, and understanding that balance is needed within those circles. So not to make it long drawn out, that's my answer.
No, I love that answer. I definitely love that answer. I think that's valid. I think balance in life in general is needed, no matter if it's people, food, or whatever it is. Balance is definitely needed. Brian, switching back to you, I want to piggyback on the whole therapist thing. Let's talk about it. Again, in the Black community, we don't really talk about going to a therapist or talking about our problems, things like that. Either we bottle it up or what have you. Why is that? Why do you feel that a therapist is really needed to be able to express her feelings? And what advice would you give people if they're nervous about even trying to seek out a therapist?
Well, I'll start the second first. Honestly, man, it's hard to get out, you know, what's really going on in your head, especially to a stranger. So I can definitely sympathize with, you know, baby steps to actually get into the room or, like, you know, schedule the appointment. So as far as, you know, how to get over that, I mean, you just got to take a, you know, leap of faith. Just trust that, you know, God brought you to, you know, that point for a reason. And a lot of it is just, you know, getting it out. But the value of therapy for me is because, you know, I'm one of 5 boys. I'm the youngest. So I grew up a fighter. I had to fight every day, especially with them and obviously the neighborhood I'm in. And I mean, we grew up with so much trauma. Like, I didn't grow up around a whole lot of money. Really, football is the only reason I went to college. There was no other way I was going to go because my family just couldn't afford it. I mean, we weren't like welfare poor, but I couldn't afford a community college. And that's just, you know, calling a spade. And, you know, some of the life experiences that we have, like, we just need to understand that, like, it's not necessarily our fault. You know, our circumstances are what they are. And, you know, just getting those things out and just, you know, being able to come to like a clear headspace of like, it's okay that you are, like, you've experienced what you experienced, but like, that's not the end. You can, you know, put your mind to it. You can do whatever you want. And really, you know, going to a therapist has helped clean those things up for me.
Awesome. And then, you know, when you're talking about, you know, going to the therapist, what should people look for? And then, you know, kind of piggyback on the bringing up the other question, why is it that we don't want to talk to a therapist within the Black community?
I can't speak for everybody, but I got trust issues. I mean, from at least from where I grew up, you know, once people like hear your stuff, like you confide into a person, you know, they go and spread your stuff out, you know, across, you know, the neighborhood or, you know, within our like friend group or whatever the case may be. So for me, it's trust. But I mean, once you go through it and like you're able to like get those things out of your head, I don't know, the biggest benefit to me was just knowing that, you know, it's not just me. And as far as like selecting your therapist, what to look for, I just plain out asked him, it's like, look, I need a brother, somebody that, you know, we have common, you know, backgrounds, at least he can understand where I'm coming from. Cause, you know, I mean, just being transparent, one of the things I struggle with is, you know, how to actually be a man. What does being a man mean? You know, obviously, like, you know, there's different people that I've like leaned in for that type of mentorship, but, you know, just being able to get out like what my past relationship is, like, for example, like with women. I grew up in a single parent household. I learned a lot about how to be a man from, you know, I like to say boys. So, you know, going to a therapist and, you know, being able to like come out and say these things out loud, it really turned ownership back on me. It's just like, all right, Brian, like you can't blame your past on anybody else but like you. But that's not the end. You can still like build on those experiences and like make that change.
No, that's good. That's great stuff.
That's deep, brother. That's deep.
That.
That's real.
That.
And I love it, man. I love it.
Yeah, I definitely love it too. Hasan, man, getting back to you. You know, we talking about wealth. That's something that, being a former financial advisor, you know, I spent years being you know, in the finance industry as working for people, and rarely did I ever come across, you know, minorities in general, but especially Black people who really try to understand wealth and how to build wealth. You mentioned real estate. You talked about real estate. You know, can you educate us a little bit deeper about being able to position yourself outside of just purchasing a house? Because, you know, purchasing a house is not easy. No matter what state you are in, you know, especially, you know, Pharoah in New York, me in California. I mean, average homes are probably at least $1 million here in Cali, unless you go, you know, to a place where nobody even knows in California. And by that time, you might as well just leave California. But can you really help us to understand about real estate, the best way to build wealth, as the Black community has not had the opportunity, as we know, for certain circumstances, of being able to create that generational transferable wealth?
Yes. So the main thing with real estate is, or the main reason why we are behind in this matter is, for one, land. We never really had access to land. And if we did, most of the time it was taken from us. Anytime that we developed, you know, a successful community, it was torn down. So we've always kind of been held down to be inferior and not break that white superiority complex. So just owning land, for one, is definitely a way to gain wealth, because they're not making any more land. So definitely wanted to throw that out there. And then what else? What else? Different ways. So basically, the industry of real estate itself. So you wanted me to answer how real estate outside of owning a home can benefit them with wealth, correct?
So you know, when let's take somebody that really just doesn't know. You know, when you're talking about the Black community, we don't know a lot of stuff. You know, we don't really know how life insurance works, the benefit of life insurance. We don't understand how annuities work. We don't know how the stocks, you know, stocks and bonds, mutual funds, ETFs and REITs work. We don't really even understand the value of owning a home and how it works, the equity within the house, how to even obtain a house, what to look for. You mentioned credit, which is great. I agree with credit. but we don't even know how to fix our credit or even to establish
True.
credit. So if buying a house it's a really great investment tool, which it is, house, townhome, condo, something that you can purchase for yourself. What is the absolute best way to be able to educate ourselves, tools, books, or anything like that, as well as the best way to achieve that goal, which is, I guess, the American dream?
Okay, thank you. Thank you for that clarity. I think the main thing is that it's a lack of trust. Realtors are sometimes looked at like car salesmen or like, scam artists. And then even in our own community, we have to deal with that. No matter what industry you're in, you're kind of always battling even your own people to show your worth. So I think us as a Black community, we need to trust, our other male leaders or just male counterparts or any counterpart that are in history of our own complexion. Because a lot of it, you won't know if you don't listen or don't ask. And then even if you ask, if you don't trust that person, you're not going to hold on to that knowledge that they gave you. So I think another asset outside of books and reading is just essentially, reaching out to a local real estate person that and, having faith to trust that person, that they're not trying to sell you. They're trying to, actually help you build wealth, help you obtain. A lot of people think that hiring a realtor is going to cost them money, but it's absolutely free to them. So I think that's a real big piece to have people get rid of that dilemma of hiring a realtor, reaching out to someone. And it's okay to seek for help. Everyone wants to try to do everything on their own, especially in this era with technology. So I think just seeking a professional, no matter what industry it is, and preferably, of course, of your own complexion, to try to build that wealth in the Black community, and then also build that trust. So that would be the main thing I would focus on with that question.
Love it. We got a couple questions here left. Again, if anybody has any questions that they want to have answered, just drop it in the chat box. Make sure you add the person's name, and I'll definitely read it out at the end. Sticking with you, Hasan, how can we change the narrative of what society sees when it comes to Black men?
I think this right here, I think we all struggle with reaching out to each other, again, trusting one another. I think we sometimes try to compete with one another or quote unquote hate on one another. And I think that's, built in us from slavery or just, past trauma. So I think that's definitely something that we all have to overcome.
Pharoah, same question, brother, switching over to you. Society sees Black men a certain way. How can we help change, that narrative?
This is going to sound so awkward when I say this. I used to struggle with this. So since we were using this session to be transparent, I used to struggle with this for myself, as everybody can see, even though I got like the light in the back and everything, but I'm looking extra light skinned, but I struggle with, you sound white, you look white, you're not one of us. So I struggle with that fight within our own community. But then I also struggle with this thing where, I wanted to always have an appearance where my image was right. And so the problem that I had was I was shaping myself to be something that I wasn't. So now I've developed this unapologetically me stance. I'm not saying that, hey, we need to go out and do, be reckless, but I'm also saying to be mindful of the things that we do, because we are a representation of ourselves, our family, and our community. So for myself, it's just being your genuine character, letting the world see your genuine character. For us, it's like, you got to think about it and just being completely real as we sit on here. We're the best dancers, we're the best athletes, we're the best, we created almost, excuse my language when I say this, but damn near half the patents now for different things, creating traffic light, super soaker, different things. So we're engineers by nature, we're creators by nature. So why should I shape myself to appease to someone else when in the end they're going to want to end up stealing my intellect and my talents anyway? So with that being said, you know what? we live in this social media era where, you know, everybody wants to see the genuine side of you, but they also want to, you know, they want to learn, they want to build, they want to see how Hasan, at the end of the day, he's going to take his necktie off and he's going to be him. You know, he may have a glass of wine. They want to see that portion, but also at the same time, they want to be educated with the knowledge and tools that Hasan, you know, he possesses. So for me, I would say the answer to this question is being, you know, unapologetically you, and understanding that there are others that are watching your every step, and making sure that, you know, you're conscious of what you're doing, and you're in the right state of mind to make sure that you're not doing anything that's a detriment to, you know, your pockets and your family.
Love it. No, definitely. You know, I believe they said the guy who was the main designer for the Chrysler 300 was a black guy. So
He was.
yeah, definitely love it. Brian, same question, man. You know, the society has a certain narrative about black men. You know, what are some things that you feel like we can do to change that narrative?
Yeah, I mean, to piggyback off both of them, you know, forums like this, being available when people reach out. You know, I'm real big on the whole reach back. I mean, obviously, I'm not like there yet, but like I can reach back and at least pull somebody to where I'm at, or at least halfway there, somewhere. I mean, just to get people like started. It's funny. My sister was out here this past weekend, and we were having a similar conversation, and it's just like, I've got all this, you know, knowledge of, you know, just experiences, you know, from going to school and like different stuff like that, just like people in my circle. But, you know, I kind of take it on myself to give that back to our community. You shouldn't have to go to college to get this. If I got it and you're in my circle or you're in my family, whatever the case may be. I mean, I take it, everybody on this call, whatever it is that you know, that's, you know, helps you to get to your point, reach back and help somebody else. Hasan touched on a huge thing, credit. I mean, give those tools to people. I mean, obviously we got to make our living, but, you know, it's some things we can't do on the house. And another thing I'll say, as far as like building, you know, our culture up, Pharoah, Carlos, and myself was talking about this at the Combine. I believe it was last year, maybe the year before, but, you know, just being vulnerable in your relationships. I mean, Jay, I met you through somebody else. I mean, just being vulnerable through your relationships and like just reaching out authentically and, you know, just building on whatever, you know, we have.
Yeah, no, definitely. I believe it was Joe Lemon that introduced us a while back, and you know, we kind of just running with it ever since. So sticking with you, Brian. I always like to talk about it. I was never the type of person that grew up reading. I hated reading. I despised reading. If I saw a book, I'll probably walk, you know, the complete, you know, different direction. But over time, as I got older, I realized that, you know, there's a lot of knowledge in picking up a book and reading. So, you know, I know sometimes it's hard for everybody to read a book. Maybe they're moving a lot, auto books or what have you, but there are a lot of, you know, regular books out there that are on auto. So, you know, for myself and, you know, for the whole Empower Black Men, you know, page this month is, you know, How Will You Measure Your Life by Clayton M. Christensen's. I believe that's how you pronounce the last name. The other co-author is James Allworth. That's the book that I'm reading. Are you reading any books? If so, what book is it? Why are you reading it? And would you suggest that book for others to read?
Right. So I guess a little bit like yourself, I grew up hating to read. And honestly, I think that's just kind of something that stems back maybe to slavery when we weren't able to read. So we kind of convinced ourselves that, you know, reading is dumb. We shouldn't do that. But there's so much game in books. So, I mean, just because I have the platform now, I mean, my top 3 books right now is Rich Dad, Poor Dad, Start With Why, and I recently finished 50 Cent's new book, Hustle Hard, Hustle Smart, Hustle Smart, Hustle Harder. That book got so much game in it. And I guess I definitely recommend that book just because obviously he comes from like a similar background as most of us here. And I mean, he just gets it. Once you get that business acumen or just understand that like our past experiences correlate with the business world so much and that it's just a matter of applying it in a different way. It's crazy. I mean, really just how to move in different circles. Pharoah was talking about this earlier, you know, him being able to, you know, switch codes depending on like where he's at. That book gave a lot of game. So I definitely recommend that. But as far as financial literacy or just understanding, you know, what's out there, definitely Rich Dad Poor Dad. And if you're starting anything, I would do Start With Why and Chopper Wood Carry Water.
Awesome.
So sorry, I gave 4 books instead of 3.
Oh, no, that's great, man. That's great. That's great. You know, hopefully everybody's taking notes. If they are, awesome. Check those books out. I don't know if they're on audio.
All of them audio.
Yeah, I typically try to do both audio and also pick up a book. A lot of times I had to switch to audio because I'll start reading a page and all of a sudden want to pass out. So, Pharoah, same question, man. You know, if you are reading books, what books could you suggest? You know, if you mentioned 50 Cent, I'm definitely going to buy it ASAP because everybody keeps on talking about 50 Cent. So clearly I need to buy that book ASAP. But yeah, what books are you reading? You know, the type of books that you read, if you do read. Yeah.
And real quick before I start, shout out to 50 because a lot of people are, you know, they see 50 as this image of he's just a rapper. Or they may see him, you know, they see him in the tabloids. They may see him, you know, being what he is, the king of petty. But also at the same time, this man is almost just short of a genius if he ain't a genius. The man is very brilliant, very smart. If you understood and looked at his stock portfolio and what he has all within his portfolio, you'd be amazed. Just like Shaq, you know, these 2 black brothers are doing their thing, and I'm nothing short of amazed. But for me, 3 books is Kobe Bryant's Mamba Mentality. For me, that, you know, hit differently because as you know, everyone is beginning to learn more about Kobe. You know, those who, you know, who was his fan and was with him through the, you know, to the end, but also, and rest in peace to Kobe also. But learning about his mentality, you know, those are really becoming fascinated with his mentality about how he went after things. So for me, I use his book to understand how to tackle life, how to tackle business, how to tackle different things, and just his approach. So it wasn't just about basketball, but I was able to intertwine it with different things. W.E. Du Bois, The Soul of a Black Folk. I'm always an advocate for learning basically about our Black history. I feel like our Black history isn't highlighted enough, and is not shown in the actual correct preface or manner. They're always trying to obscure or change facts. So to me, is reading those books and learning those things that definitely helps to educate us. And another book that I believe it was actually Brian's business partner that told me to read this, and I just started it. I'm on like page 50, but it's Shoe Dog by Phil Knight of Nike. That book right there, I know Brian told it, you know, start with a book. If I had to start with a book, like I normally would start with Kobe, but whew, that Shoe Dog book, Lord have mercy. That right there tells you everything about how he went after it, building an empire, just the mindset. It literally, I honestly, I hope they make a movie out that movie. Out that book. It's that good. And like everybody else, you know, reading wasn't my thing. I was too busy out trying to learn firsthand experience. So now that I have the time, we're sitting here in quarantine, I try to, you know, at least read a chapter a day in a book. I try to do the you know, the thing through iBooks. It's a little bit difficult. It's different for me. I like to actually fill a book. So those 3 books are those are the ones that I recommend for everybody.
Awesome. Yeah, it's crazy. I picked it up and I put it back down. The whole Nike book. So I have to definitely check that one out as well. Hasan, man, same question. If you are reading any books, what is it? Talk about it. Why are you reading it? Yeah.
I am not currently reading any books. As I mentioned earlier, tripled my business right now, so I'm pretty tied down with that alone. But definitely Rich Dad Poor Dad. It's a lot of the biggest thing in that book is the quadrants on how to make money without actually working versus working for your money. So I definitely would recommend Rich Dad Poor Dad. And then a lot of people in my circle. I know we spoke on mental health, and a lot of people in my circle are reading Joyce Meyers' book. I want to say it's called Battlefield or Mind of the Battlefield, which really helps you spiritually and mentally, process, I guess, your struggles and overcoming them. Because essentially, again, telling you how to deal with yourself, because at the end of the day, that's all you're up against is yourself and the expectations that you put on yourself. So that's all I got on books, or those two.
Awesome. Really quickly, again, me being in sports and finance, another great book that I really like. It's written by a Black male as well. The Wealth Choice, Success Secrets of Black Millionaires by Dennis Kimbrough. It's right here. Definitely would suggest for you guys to take a peek at it. Again, I love to try to talk about Black authors because there's not that many Black authors out there in the world, but especially Black authors that talk about money. It's a really great book. Very interesting. Talks about Black millionaires, which is always a plus. And we're about to get ready to wrap up here. We got one last questions for everybody around the board. There is a chat box. If you look down, if you kind of move your cursor, there's a chat box. If you want to ask any questions whatsoever to any of these guys that are on the panel, please throw your your questions in there, plus who you want to ask a question about. But I really appreciate you guys taking some time out on a Tuesday, Taco Tuesday. So appreciate you guys taking the time. Hasan, sticking with you. Some of the biggest things we talked about: a circle, networking, mental health, staying positive, pushing through. There's some great people on here. I appreciate everybody showing up again to one of our EBM conferences virtually this year. What other advice, suggestions, anything that you can think of that you can give to everybody that's listening, regardless of its books, regardless of its networking tips, whatever it is? What are some other things that you can provide before we go?
I pretty much said it all, but in short and in summary, I would say again, faith. I know, tithing and sowing seeds. I'm gonna advise everybody to do that. I grew up always doubting that or not necessarily seeing the value in it, but I started tithing and, my business tripled. So I guess that's the only thing I haven't touched on is tithing and sowing seeds.
Awesome. Brian, same thing, man. We talked about a lot: networking, circle, mental health, what's going on in 2020. Elaborate on anything else that you can potentially elaborate on, word of advice, word of encouragement that you can give to all these beautiful Black kings and queens on here.
Really, don't sell yourself short. Don't let nobody tell you can't do something. School ain't always the answer. I'm an entrepreneur, so I'm never going to tell you to go to school because school teaches you how to work for other people. And this comes from a person with an MBA and a law degree. Don't fall for the scheme because really no CEO will ever pay you enough to live in this neighborhood. One of my law professors taught me that, and it just kind of stuck with me. So bet on yourself. Don't be afraid to bet on yourself. Don't be afraid to take the long route because as long as you got breath, you still got opportunity. And as far as like learning new skills and stuff, man, I can't stress enough YouTube University and mentorship, like Hasan and Pharoah said.
Man, I don't know what you just said, dude, about that. That is the deepest thing I think I've heard all year in regards to, a CEO won't pay you enough to live in his neighborhood, which is bananas. I don't think I've ever heard anybody say that, and I never ever in my life thought about that as well. That's crazy. That's deep. I love it. Pharoah, man, same question. Looks like we got a few questions here, but let's get to Pharoah. Same questions. Any advice you can give? We talked about a lot networking. We talked about circle. We talked about mental state, staying positive, pushing through the whole 2020. Any advice that you can give? Maybe I should word the question. Any advice you would give your young self, your younger self, or the people that's listening to us?
I would the new advice that I have for everybody is just like YouTube University, Instagram Story University. So literally going to Instagram stories and participating on someone's story. You may not be in there, communicating live with them as far as mouth to mouth, but they can see your chat. And so for me, it's, making myself known and presence and making my presence felt within that chat. But then right after that, DMing them or direct messaging them and telling them that I'm thankful for the knowledge that they dropped. And from there, you should be able to build up some value with them. So that's a new form of networking that I've been working on since it's been hard for us just to get the in-person networking. And that's helped me to gain so many new clients just within quarantine. So that's one thing. I also want to take the chance to answer Mike's questions on Michael Wynn. Mike, your question about any suggestions or advice on manufacturers. So unfortunately, the issue that we have is COVID knocked out one of the biggest trade shows that we have for everyone. And this is for everybody to understand and learn. There's a trade show called the Magic Trade Show. The Magic Trade Show happens twice a year. It's in February and it's in August, and it's always in Vegas. Now, the Magic Trade Show is the king and queen of trade shows across the world. It's that big. They have little smaller versions that they call, they have coterie or project, but Magic is where it's at. This is where you have individuals who will come from China, Australia, Bangkok, or Italy, wherever, and they are coming to talk to individuals like you because they want your business. Literally for myself, I just woke up from a nap before our call because tonight I have to talk to two of my manufacturers. One is in China and one is in Hong Kong. So I probably will be up until 8 o'clock in the morning, which is 8 p.m. their time. So, looking into Magic Trade Show, if you want to Google that and get it on your radar, hopefully it'll be back in theory, or it'll be back around in February. But right now they're trying to work out some virtual stuff. This is where you can learn about different manufacturers. For myself, I went and tried to tackle new manufacturers for t-shirts. It's just different things. And you start to realize that the manufacturers that you're working with, they're all intertwined in some type of way. And they all, have different price points. So then you put your business background onto that. And since I have the floor real quick, I guess I'm not going to tackle all of them because I want Brian and Hasan to definitely tackle them. But I'll go over to Timothy's. How can you better use the resources that you have, the people that want to help? Great question. That's absolutely great question. The resources that we have right now, you have to think about the free resources that you have. I'm an advocate for, if you want to start a business, you want to keep your overhead budget as low as possible, meaning you do not want to spend money that, is not going to come back right away. So for me, I'm an advocate of free things. Social media is free. So the things that I use a lot is Twitter, and I use LinkedIn a lot. LinkedIn is very good for the professional setting. LinkedIn has a lot of great hits. Brian attributed to it earlier. They're going through certifications where you can get free certifications right now through Google and LinkedIn. Instagram is great. Like, there's nothing greater than Instagram, man. You just got some beautiful things on Instagram, and everybody on this call, they know what I'm talking about. You can learn a lot from Instagram, literally from the stories. You can see how somebody's growth, what they're doing to make their growth. So for me, I watch people's profile, and if I notice that you're having tremendous growth, I'm going to study you. I'm going to figure out what it is that you're doing to have this growth, because for all of us, social media is a new way for marketing. You know, it's free. It's just like it's like word of mouth. And then the other avenue is YouTube University, man. I cannot stop promoting YouTube University. It's the greatest thing. You're talking about putting a voice with a video, and they're actually showing you how to build something, do something, grow something. And then the great thing about it is you can press pause. You know, that's the great thing about it. And you could always come back to it. So I love that. And definitely want to turn it over to Hasan and Brian, because I know they got some jewels to share too.
Yeah, let's before we switch over to Hasan, I just want to make sure I reiterate. I hope nobody is nervous about asking questions. Let me touch on really quickly what Brian said about college. Look, college is not for everybody. And I went to college and I've learned 20 million times more than I ever did in college. So, Michael Dell, who owns Dell Computers, dropped out of college, out of University of Texas. Mark Zuckerberg dropped out of Harvard. The list goes on and on and on. So, with everything that they're talking about as resources, tools, make sure you guys soak that stuff in, and don't be nervous about asking questions. So feel free to, drop as many questions. Just, if you want to have it general for everybody, just say general. If you want it for a specific person, put their name, Pharoah, Brian, or Hasan. But Hasan, go ahead and let's kind of hop towards Ali's questions. It says tips/advice on starting businesses while working traditional 9 to 5. That's amazing question. Love it. I think a lot of us kind of did that as far as trying to start, a business while working the corporate life, which is absolutely horrendous. I can't tell you how many times I stayed up to 2-3 o'clock in the morning trying to get stuff done right after I got off of work. So Hasan, take it away, brother.
Yeah, so I would say the main thing with that is essentially dedicating some time to yourself. You're going to dedicate 8 hours of your day to make someone else rich. So allocate as much time as possible as you can to yourself. So what I did starting my real estate career, I would get up every day at 5 a.m. And work on that until I had to go to work. So I would say if I was to do that over again, I would wake up working on myself in that business and doing something before I go to bed with that business. That way it's always fresh in your mind. And little by little, I think, you'll get that momentum to start chipping away at not needing the 9 to 5.
Love it. Awesome. Brian, do you want to maybe throw some input on that question as well from Ali? Tips, advice on starting business while working a traditional 9 to 5?
Absolutely. I mean, me and Carlos did it. Really, I mean, to Hasan's point, you got to block off your time. You got to treat it like a business. Same way you clock in, and dedicate those hours, you got to do the same thing, in your side hustle. Because obviously the goal is to replace your income so you're able to do what you love instead of what you got to do to make ends meet. So, I mean, personally, what I do, I'm up at 5. I start, get my calendar and stuff together around like 6. I work until 7:30. That's my first call. I get off at 5, and really right before this call, me and my business partner talk all throughout the day when stuff come up. Because right now, I mean, we got a client we trying to get on the team. So just be flexible. Get as much work as you can done on your 9 to 5. Because I mean, I'm just gonna keep it real. There's times where I ain't always working my 9 to 5. I got to hustle to make my dream work too. So yeah, I mean, that's essentially it. Block off your time. And another thing I'll add is use the income from your 9 to 5 to, build your business. Because just like Pharoah said, there's a lot of free resources like Instagram and, LinkedIn and Google as far as like getting certifications and stuff. But don't just jump in and spend money for like Facebook ads and stuff like that. Because like word of mouth is really where you get the majority of your sales at. So use your free resources as much as possible and only use your income when you absolutely have to.
Yeah, definitely. No, I agree. 1000% agree. I mean, in regards to, waking up early, I'm not a person to wake up early, so I'd rather work late. So, you can always kind of work late as well. One of the biggest things that I would kind of toss out there as well, just because, you know, my old job as well as an entrepreneur, you know, when you start your own business and you're just yourself, you're basically an operation manager. And as an operation manager, you have to be able to increase profits and decrease expenses. So you got to be able to understand how to build and scale your business with almost little to no resources, as well as to decrease as much expenses as possible. I'll toss out another book for you guys, and I promise we'll be done with books. But The Power of Broke by Damian John is flat out amazing. Brian, I see you shaking your head. I know you read it. I've read it. It is dope to understand how you go from, you know, Hasan made a comment about Ubering, based off of, you know, Damian John's history, the owner of Fubu. I mean, he was basically doing ride sharing back in the 80s and 90s. And he did anything and everything he could just to scrape up dollars. And just like what Brian said, took his money and put it into his business, just like what Pharoah talked about as far as not even knowing how to sew and stuff and you know, create patterns and things like that. Damian didn't know either, and he learned that on himself. But you know, this is during a time when there was no resources like Instagram and YouTube and stuff like that. So utilize as much stuff as possible. Looks like we got one more question.
Real quick, Jay, I want to cut you off if you don't mind. I got to answer Ali's question to go back to it. Number one, because I do, I'm a consultant for various workshops where I answer this question. But this question is for everybody that's looking to open a business. And Ali, since you asked the question, I'm going to generalize it to you. But if I were you, I would use your phone and create a note section and create an outline. That is the organization. That is a starting point for yourself to say, okay, these are the things that I want to tackle. And this is where I want to go with the business. And the crazy thing about it is 2 to 3 or 4 years from now, you're going to go back to that list and change it. So there's different things, and both these brothers, Brian and Hasan, have answered it, you know, greatly. I'm just wanting to piggyback on it. But for yourself, you know, once you write down these things for yourself, you know, then you want to tackle it slowly. You got to look at it like, and I'm almost going to give you an analogy. It's almost like dating. You know, you're dating a girl. You know, you can't go from just standing at, you know, at home plate and then trying to go around, you know, the first, second, third base. You actually got to do everything in a systematic step. And business is the exact same way. You have to do everything in a procedural way. So you can't go from step 1 to all the way to step 10 and then think you can come back to step 3 and 4. It's not going to allow it, and it's actually going to set you up for failure. So some of the things that I'm an advocate of when starting up a business is, number one, if you know the name that you want, go to look that name up. Go to look up trademarks, and you can look up trademark it may be trademark411.com, or it's either trademarks411.com. There's nothing worse than not having the resources like this as far as trademarks, and this is a resource for you. Second, there's nothing worse than making $1 million, $100,000, or whatever the case, and then finding out that you got to cease and desist your business name because it's already being used. That's something that can be a mood killer, and I'm speaking from experience with this. I just went through it in May. Everybody knew my business, the NFL, the NBA. When I met Brian and Carlos, my business name was something else. I literally just learned this May that, hey, I made a mistake when looking up the research and not doing my proper research on it, that this name was already being used. So now I'm going through a rebrand. It's different things. And the last point that I want to leave you with is, let's talk about the money portion, because that's the portion that you really will need at some point in time. But Brian attributed best to it. Don't spend dollars that you don't have to use just yet. So ways about it is, if you know you want to purchase something, write it down first before you hit that purchase, you know, button or putting your card information in. Write everything down that you need and calculate everything. For me, one of the things that I did when I had a 9-to-5 is I actually used to set money to the side per paycheck. I already had calculated what my rent was, what my cell phone bill was, you know, what I needed money to take a girl out with and stuff like that. You know, I play Xbox, you know, how much Xbox Live gonna cost, how much a new game, Madden, is about to come around. You know, $60 is a lot of money. And so for me, you know, writing everything down that I need and making a priority list of what I need to tackle first and what can get me on the threshold to get my money back from that. So my apologies, Jay, for cutting you off, but I felt the need to really say this just for everyone.
Nah, man, this is what we're here for. I mean, this is what we're here for. Knowledge is power. Like I said, man, you know, a lot of stuff a lot of people don't learn in schools. I'll let you guys kind of tackle these questions here. Let me skip to Jade's question. It says something about, to anyone, is it completely necessary to go through a lawyer to establish a legal right to your business, or is it possible to do it yourself? Really quickly, you can do it yourself. There's a company called mynewcompany.com. It's real simplistic and simple. I have 3 LLCs. All my LLCs are in Wyoming for tax purposes reasons. California will take every single penny that I have, regardless if I make money or not within my companies. That's just California. And then with that, I also have a CPA. I suggest people to get CPAs if you're starting out a business and you know, creating your business, getting your business going. There's a lot of tax breaks. I like LLCs. It really just kind of depends on your structure of your company, as far as if you want an LLP, if you want an LLC, an INC, blah, blah, blah. But before you start working on your structure of your company, and my suggestion is to figure out you know, what your company is, because you might have to register inside your actual state, especially if you have like a brick and mortar store. You need to figure out if you got partners and things like that, making sure there's a lot of templates and things like that that you can look out and obtain. Do some research on yourself as well. And then really quickly, I'll just touch on my 2 cents. And the question above Jade's, Assad talks about how have you guys overcome some of those racial, economical, and social injustice on your way to the top? How have you kept those race factors from hindering you? Because as Black men, we don't get a choice. Yeah, it's you know, I think we all kind of talked about it. We all kind of know, being business owners, entrepreneurs, it's rough, it's hard. Me and Brian, and you know, as well as Pharoah and Hasan, I mean, we're all in industries that are majority dominated by, you know, Caucasian people. You know, especially me and Brian, we're in a Caucasian and Jewish industry. It is not easy whatsoever to maneuver in the industries that we're in. Even when I started my corporate career in finance, I can guarantee you people that I dealt with who makes $500,000 plus to, you know, anywhere from $500,000 up to almost 25 million a year. They were not looking for me to give them any financial advice. Didn't matter how knowledgeable I was. It's just the fact of what I looked like at the end of the day. So, you know, just like I think Pharoah mentioned it and others mentioned it, you got to push forward. You know, there's challenges. You know, life is tough. We already know what we're going to face before we even get there. You know, but the biggest thing is that, you know, it's almost like playing sports. To get to the NBA, to get to the NFL, you're going to have to put in time, effort, blood, sweat, and tears. You're going to be frustrated. I can't tell you how many times over the last 6 years of being a business owner that I've quit 1 trillion times per day mentally in my head, because I'm trying to get to that next level. I'm trying to get to that next level because, you know, I can't move this way because I have to look at and remember what I look like. Maybe it's a little bit easier for them because they're Caucasian and a lot harder for me. But we also talked about mental health and being able to, you know, exercise our, you know, and be able to speak out about certain things that we're going through so we can kind of stay sane ourselves. We also talked about circle as well. It's okay to have your friends that you grew up with. There's nothing wrong with that. But if you're trying to move a certain way and get to a certain level, if you're trying to become a millionaire or a billionaire, you got to move a certain way and play the game to be able to get to that next level. And there's certain people that you have to have within your circle to elevate yourself, to be able to propel yourself, to be able to get there. And then, you know, for me, and one of my clients who's actually a college coach is on here as well. I personally like to keep my head down. I don't tell people what I'm doing. I don't really share too much about what I'm doing until I do it. One, I don't, you know, for me, I believe that there's a, you know, negative energy that people really don't want you to succeed, and there are a lot of people that really want you to succeed, but there's a lot of people that want you to fail. And for me, it's kind of like one of those things. I believe that whatever you toss out there in the world from your hard work and what you say and what you do, blah, 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 is what you're going to kind of get back. So for me, I like to keep my head down, focus on building. I hate the word, and I use that word hate strongly. I hate the word grinding. I like the word building, because I'm building towards my goal, and my goal is here, and I don't want to grind. Grind is to me, it's I don't really know how to explain it right now on top of my head, but reading books, educating myself on what other people have done. In the past, like I mentioned Dame John in regards to the book Power Broke and how he got to where he got to in life. Again, educating myself on different tools and resources I can use, understanding how to use social media the proper way to take myself to the next level, and then staying true to myself, be passionate, which I think is extremely, extremely important, is to be passionate about what you're doing in life. Also remember your why, WHY. Why are you even doing it? Like I mentioned before, not everybody's meant to be an entrepreneur. Entrepreneurship is not for everybody. But if you are striving to be an entrepreneur, why are you doing it? There's numerous reasons why you might be doing it. Personally wise, as far as an individual within yourself, but at the same time, personally, maybe it could be, your daughter or your son, or for your parents, blah, 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 blah. So that's just my 2 cents. Pharoah, since you're the last person up, do you want to talk on it? And then I also would like to get Hasan's input as well. And then, guys, this is just a question part. I don't want to keep everybody on too long. If you have to go, we definitely understand. But we're just here to answer questions and give and provide as much feedback as possible. Pharoah, do you want to go ahead and kind of piggyback on that question?
Yeah, real quick to what Asad asked. If you can, Asad, go on YouTube and look up a motivational video. I promise you it's not long. It's probably 1 minute and 30 seconds, 2 minutes, but it's Eric Thomas. And I love Eric Thomas. And it's, I can't remember the exact title, so I'm going to tell you what the title is. You could probably type this in, it's going to come, but it's How Bad Do You Want to Be Successful? And what this motivational video is, and what it teaches you is, for all of us that are walking around on earth, it doesn't matter what color you are, in order to continue walking across the earth, you got to breathe, right? You can't do anything without breathing. Well, if you want to be successful as bad as you want to breathe, then you're going to be successful. But if you don't, if you think you can be successful without breathing, you're not going to be successful. So watch that video. It's 2 parts, and the first part, it really hits home for me. I really attribute that video to everything, because the question that you asked for myself is, and I witnessed it firsthand for Jay, for Brian, and for Carlos. Hasan, I'm starting to see it on your side as well with the real estate side here in New York, because I just moved out here 2 years ago, and it's crazy. We'll have some conversations offline about this. But on the agent side, it's crazy that you have a league like the NFL that is 80% Black, or you got the NBA that is 90% Black. But then when you talk about agents, we're talking less than 5% are Black. And then you talk about women, it's even smaller. It's somewhere around 0.5 to 1%. That's even just a woman. So, and then you bring that even down even more for Black women, it's got to be like 0.5%. So for myself, the question that you ask is, how do you keep going, knowing that, you're going to create a table. So the way that I look at it aside is, I went into fashion. I'm a man that, first off, I'm a Black man in a predominantly white industry. And second, I'm also a heterosexual man in a predominantly thought of different way industry. And so for myself is, I'm coming in here, and not to say I'm trying to ruffle feathers, but also at the same time, I'm trying to leave my mark and let them know that I know what I'm doing. So the best word of advice that I can give you is, study whatever it is that you want to do, become a genius and become very knowledgeable at it, just like how we are at fantasy football, just like how we are at stocks and Madden. Become the master at it. And then after that, your confidence is going to go up, that when someone says something wrong, it's going to be by nature that you correct them in some type of way, whether it's verbally or non-verbally. So to me, that's how you overcome all of the economical and social injustice things that we're facing right now.
Appreciate that.
Anytime, brother.
Hasan, you wanna add some input into that?
Yes, I just had a great thought and it slipped me a little bit. To piggyback off him, I was about to say it's about confidence. I know 3-4 years ago when I was thinking about getting into real estate, I didn't necessarily feel that I could do it. But really, anything you want to do, it's nothing to it but to do it. So you really just got to believe in yourself.
These brothers is dropping lines.
But me and my family, we come from an area where it essentially was, either you did sports or you sold drugs. And I'm sure that's a lot of us. But luckily for me and my family, I guess you as well, we had examples outside of that. And even though we had the correct examples, we still had to battle, with trying to go the wrong path. So I definitely say stick to your morals and, take the long road or the correct path, no matter how long it's going to take, and build that confidence. And you'll get to where you want to go. It's just a matter of time.
Awesome. Brian, do you want to touch on on that as well?
No, they got that one. I'll say one thing I do want to I want to touch on do you need a lawyer to start your LLC and stuff like that. I guess to kind of piggyback on what you were saying, Jay, no, you don't need a lawyer. I'm a lawyer telling you that you don't need a lawyer to start your own entity. I would definitely get a tax professional that understands your business and what it is you want to do, because the grand scheme of things, we're trying to build wealth. You don't want to take too many deductions and mess around and, make your income show too low and you can't buy a house. Hasan can touch more on that. If you don't have the income to qualify for a loan, you hustling backwards. So there's definitely benefits to, taking different deductions, because, right now I'm in California, my income is a little bit higher. I need these deductions because I don't want to pay any taxes. So I definitely take some of my, deductions that I have, but I'm also in the process. I want to buy a house within the next year. So I'm not taking as many because I want to make sure my income is still, I guess that'll put me in a position where I can actually purchase, but, I also don't want to pay in. So that's just what I'll add there. One thing that I've used, definitely get a Wyoming LLC for tax purposes. The whole point of the LLC is to not have your name on it. You definitely want to own it, but you don't want, your name on it. Definitely do some research on YouTube about, the benefits of LLCs. I'll say a good contact for that is Anderson, the Anderson Advisors. It's a white law firm, but they give away so much game about how to structure different entities. It's kind of real estate focused, but you'll get the idea of it. And LLC University will teach you exactly how to set up an entity in your state if you have to do it within like your specific state. Don't set up LLC in California because they have a lot of laws that are adverse to you. And I don't want to talk about those because not a lot of people have like that legal background. But yeah, the point of LLC is to keep it from getting sued personally.
No, definitely. You definitely want to try to have, your stuff within, behind the scenes as much as possible. Asset protection is always huge. I'm not sure, Brian's familiar with shelf and shell companies, but that's getting real deep as far as protection and hiding assets and hiding a lot of different stuff that we won't really fully discuss. But again, I appreciate everybody. Number one, I appreciate my co-hosts. You guys did an amazing job. I love the story, learned a lot. For myself, you can follow me on Instagram, JAY_CEO_field. Again, I am a sports agent. I also, within my sports agency, NVEA Management, we represent pro athletes, WNBA players, minor league baseball players, college coaches, Also working on getting on the golf game. If there's any financial advice that you guys need, you guys can always contact me. We just launched my wealth management division within my sports agency. So we're dealing with a lot of life insurance, annuities, income, retirement, things like that, healthcare. Security side of the business is actually with one of my partners at TNT Capital. So we don't really deal with securities anymore. I don't feel like dealing with it as a headache. I've dealt with it for years. But in regards to any type of business consulting advice, anything that you guys may need, definitely hit me up. Don't ever be, nervous about contacting me. Definitely will respond when I can. But yeah, again, you can find me on Instagram, J_CEO_field. And I appreciate you guys being on. Brian, let them know where they can find.
Yeah, I just dropped it down in the chat. So my Instagram page is I'm Brian M. Griffin. It's IM. And our business page is Ovation Management at Ovation MGT.
Yeah, just really quickly, just brief about your background.
Okay, so I have a background in finance. I'm also an attorney. So I negotiate contracts for a living, both in my 9-to-5 as well as an agent. I invest in real estate. And one thing that's I'm really passionate about is just financial literacy. I'm actually in the process of putting together a program that I'll put together in my neighborhood, just free of charge, just to give back and just teach people all the things that we should have been taught in high school. So yeah, that's one thing that's coming out. Nobody but you guys knew that, and my sister, because she was here this weekend.
Awesome. Hasan, again, if you can give a brief introduction to yourself and where they can find you.
Yes, so Hasan Lamot, real estate agent out of the Charlotte, North Carolina area. Currently working as an affiliate of Coldwellbanker. You can follow me on IG at Lamot20. That's LAMOT20. So Lamot without an N. And I'm looking to, I guess, eventually be a real estate mogul. It's just a matter of time, and we're all, I guess, going to be there, verified, and the experts for our whole generation and race.
Hasan, really quickly, man, are you from Charlotte?
I'm from the Greensboro area.
Okay.
Between Greensboro and Raleigh, small town called Mebane or Burlington. Where are you from?
Man, I literally been everywhere, man. But I graduated from Vance High School in Charlotte. So.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
The church I go to actually works out of Vance High School.
Okay. Yeah. Small world. Pharoah, my brother, a little bit about yourself and where people can find you, and we'll wrap up.
A little bit about myself. I'm the only fashion designer that's partnered with the NFL, the NBA, and the WNBA through the Players Associations. I am now also, where you guys are hearing it, I am partnering with the Miss USA. So you guys are the first to hear it. I am partnering with Miss USA, and I am also actually transitioning over into the NHL, and I'm also transitioning over into the music industry. I have just locked in Evander Kane as one of my new clients. Evander Kane is one of a few Black brothers that in the NHL leading the Diversity Council. Where you guys can find me, you guys, I put my Instagram down in the chat. I respond back to, yeah, brother, I'm trying, man. I'm trying to literally bring everybody up with me. I have no problem when it comes to, sharing my resources. And sometimes I even go as far as to, because I hate to go into these areas where I'm by myself. So I like to bring people with me. And if I could bring somebody with me, even if I got to, hand off a client to you, I'm going to do it, because I hate to be by myself in that room. I want to sit in that room where we can make jokes to each other, because right now, ain't nobody understanding my jokes in these rooms. And another thing about me, man, I golf heavy, Jay. So I'm a big golfer. I've started something nationwide called Young Black Golfers. I put it on GroupMe. So guys that golf, if you're traveling to different states, I'll get with you on that. But if you're traveling to different states, you could always find somebody to golf with. That's a brother. And we're adding women in as well. But, it's just trying to, increase our value. And the last portion of this is, I cannot thank my success without thanking Brian and Carlos. I met these brothers, 3 years ago, and for myself, Carlos saw me looking like a deer in headlights at the combine. I took a leap of faith. Fashion designers don't go to the combine, but I just used my athletic background, and thanks to these brothers, they've opened the doors for me by introducing me to different people. Earlier, we touched on as far as circles and networking, and you never know the amount of resources that someone may know. And so I look and hold these guys to high respect. And if you guys really want some information, man, make sure you guys reach out to everyone in here. Brian, Hasan has been dropping lots of jewels tonight. Hasan's family's in here. So trust me, he comes from a great background. So make sure you guys, honestly, this is why we're here. We're just trying to be vessels for you guys to really, come out here and have some fun, make these bags, and literally travel the world.
Man, love it. Hey, I'm excited for all you guys. You guys are all doing great things. Definitely exciting to see another chapter, elevating. Again, I appreciate you guys. I hope you guys enjoyed your time this Tuesday. Empowered Black Men. You can find a page going to Instagram, Empowered Black Men. That's what you got to type in. This conference is Excelling Black Men. It looks like we're all excelling, so I'm loving it. Appreciate you guys, co-hosts. Appreciate you guys. You guys did an amazing job. Much love to all you guys. You guys have a good night, guys. Thanks so much.
Good night, guys.